day, everybody, and what's up? Welcome to the podcast for She Comes First and Selfless Sex. I am Dr. Nick Meyer, sitting here on October 27th, the last weekend in October. And just like last time, I say this so much, but it's so true. I have to say thank you for all the listeners out there who listen to this podcast on a weekly basis, and they share it with their friends and colleagues. I will reach my personal goal for October probably within the next few hours, like a total of listens, and I'm really excited about that. And also, I can announce that within the next few weeks, this podcast will show up on Pandora. So hopefully, I can start to advertise on Pandora and get this thing jumping. So this week's topic was pretty interesting. We were in the office one day, probably I think it was Thursday or Friday, and a colleague of mine comes burning in. She's like, "Oh, look, I got this new hot red nail polish." And everyone's like, "Ooh, this is hot. I like it, whatever." And she's like, "Yeah, maybe my husband will like it. Maybe it's his fetish or something like that." And everyone was like, "Yeah, maybe that's it. And I'm like, "Oh, that could be his. It could be his thing." So I don't think it's actual a fetish, but it could be a fetish. So you know what? Let's talk about that today. To get this podcast started, I will ask a simple question. What is a sexual fetish? And I'm sure if you go online and search Google, you'll find dozens of different definitions of a sexual fetish. But I will use the one by Sonia Collins, where she says, "A fetish is sexual excitement in response to an object or body part that is not typically sexual, such as shoes or feet." She goes on to say, "Many people with fetishes must have the object of their attraction at hand or be fantasizing about it, alone or with a partner, in order to become sexually aroused, get an erection, and have an orgasm." And she ends by saying, "They're more common in men." So with that said, I was wondering, what are the top fetishes in men? So here we go. Number one, a foot fetish. And a foot fetish could include things like kissing feet, licking feet, or even being masturbated by their partner's feet. Number two, voyeurism, watching other people have sex. At number three, we have latex clothing. And this is kind of a double shot, because some men enjoy the visual of seeing skin-tight clothing, and or some men enjoy rubbing up against latex. Number four, domination and submission. So you can include in that bondage, being restrained, and being a sexual submissive. And also, there's like a 4B, where you can also include impact play, which would include flogging and being spanked. Number five, body piercing. So there are men out there who enjoy licking, sucking, and tugging on body piercings. Number six, there are some men who have a breast and butt fetish. And number seven, some men have a sexual fetish for hair. And with that said, I was wondering, what are the top sexual fetishes found in women? So here are the top six. Number one is impact play, as I mentioned before, which would include flogging and being spanked. Number two, role playing, which is acting out some sort of sexual fantasies. And high on that list is the doctor-patient fantasy. Number three, foot fetish. But this time it's kind of flipped on its head, because this time the women actually enjoy having their feet worshipped. Number four, I have to mention anal play, where women enjoy having a finger inserted in their ass, having their ass licked or quote-unquote rimming, using butt plugs, or having anal sex with a penis or a dildo or a sex toy. And also, it seems like it's becoming more and more popular these days, and there's less stigma attached to it as well. Number five, women enjoy wearing lingerie. And included in that are the stockings, which goes into the heels, which kind of goes into like the whole thing about dressing up. And finally, number 6 is group sex. And for some people out there, they may question whether their sexual fetish is a problem or problematic. If you have a group of consenting adults, or it's just you and your partner, or you by yourself, I would say no, it's really not a problem. You are supposed to enjoy yourself. And with that said, if you feel you have a fetish and it takes over your life, or you can't function, you cannot hold a job, then you may need to talk to somebody about it, because it's almost an obsession now. But for the most part, having a fetish is actually a good thing. So let me ask you a question. What are you into? Do you think you possibly have a fetish? Maybe you are into guys that have tattoos. Maybe you like to be spanked or be the spanker. Maybe you're into hair or having no hair on certain parts of the body. Maybe you're into body size. Maybe you're into BDSM. Nothing wrong with that either. Maybe you're into watching people have sex. Maybe you're even into having group sex. Could it be clothing, leather or latex, or just plain old cotton? Maybe you like to watch your partner dress up in a fancy suit, or maybe it's their undergarments that gets you going, or maybe you're part of the furry community. You know, the guys who dress up in those big furry suits and roll around and things like that and have a good time. So let me ask you, what's your thing? Or do you have to have a thing? Or maybe you don't have a thing. But whatever it is, that's fine too. Or just to flip this conversation on its head, maybe it's not actually a fetish, maybe it's just a preference or something that you are attracted to. Like, for example, you guys know I like heels and legs. I always have. And there's something very sexy about a lady with nice legs and a decent pair of heels. Do I need that there to perform and get aroused and have an orgasm? No, not at all. Not at all. If you want to follow the textbook definition of a fetish. But is it a preference? Yes. Would I like my lady to wear heels all the time? Oh yeah, of course, because I think it's sexy as hell. But do I need that to perform? No, not at all. Not at all. So maybe it's just a preference and something that you're like and something that you are attracted to, and maybe it's not actually a fetish, or maybe it is. So in closing, I just would like to say this. Maybe this could be a good time for you to explore and see what other things you are into sexually. So maybe you might like to be spanked during sex. That's great. Maybe you could discover that you're really actually into BDSM. That's great too. Maybe you may want to, maybe you may like watching people have sex or listen to the audio of people having sex, or maybe even group sex, clothing, or whatever. But because truth be told, you can almost fetishize damn near anything. So on that note, I'm out. You guys have a great day. Stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon.